We're happy to be joined in the program by John Ashaolu, the athletic director at Point Park University. John, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you and the family are doing well and you're staying safe. Basically, the first question to you is, why is this something that made sense for Point Park University, and why did the school make the investments that they did to bring esports as a varsity sport at Point Park?
Hey, yeah, thanks a lot. Hope you're doing well too. We're doing well over here. I think our administration, they're always looking to be on the cutting edge. I think we put their foot in the water, so to speak, last spring when we hosted the Steel City Showdown, where it was kind of almost like a test of it. It was a video game event, an esports event where we had a couple different video games, and we had prizes. It was a partnership with the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Cleveland Cavaliers esports division. So after that event, myself and my boss, our dean of student affairs, Keith Paler, we went to the NACE convention in Harrisburg, PA, where University of Harrisburg, who has, that's their only sport. They invested in this, and at that convention, the president of the university spoke kind of about the publicity they got. He said they were on ESPN at the finals of, I think, the League of Legends game, and on ESPN in prime time, ESPN mentioned University of Harrisburg 81 times. And he said that there's no way that they would have been able to get that kind of publicity other if it wasn't for esports. So we did our due diligence at that time through the event. We spoke to a couple of different universities and a couple of different other programs that have had esports, came back and reported back to our administration. But at that point, we just decided to go full speed into it because of the success that we garnered from the Steel City Showdown event and just what we learned from the NACE convention. We decided, instead of going with a part-time coach, we're going to go full-time. We're going to put more dollars and revenues into putting esports arena together. And we just decided, we're not gonna just take little steps until we're going to go jump on both feet, and we're going to go varsity, which is, not a lot of universities around the area have done that. So we're kind of almost like a test case. And like I said, our administration is always trying to be on the cutting edge. So, even just since we announced that we're going to have a varsity sports program, I can't tell you the amount of calls from other universities and other presidents and other, administration and other universities have called us trying to, ask us, how you guys doing that? How did you guys do this? And we haven't even started the team yet, but we're kind of almost like a little bit of the experts right now. Going in, and with our school, we have a lot of different sports right now. 18 sports. We're always looking to just provide different avenues for student athletes to compete in. It's a new arena to me. Speaking about esports, but just the amount of interest that we've gotten from prospective students, from parents calling, it's been unbelievable. So I think, trying to be on the front lines of this and trying to start it out in the area, I think that's something that our university is really supported. We even go so far as right now where we're trying to develop a curriculum around esports. So not just the athletic part as far as the esports game, and we're also trying to, when these student athletes come to us, we also want to be able to have careers that they can go into. Sure. If they're not going to go into competitive gaming, we're also going to have, classes and majors that are going to be around the esports so that they can also get that experience, because as a university, the student athletes are trying to give them both parts, to enrich them, the athletic part and also the academic part.
No doubt. We're talking to John Ashaolu, the athletic director at Point Park University. Do you have an idea of where this is going, John, in the short term? You've mentioned the anecdotal evidence of the calls that you've gotten, the interest that you've had. Heck, you're doing a radio interview about it here on a major sports station in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Do you have any projections as to what this industry is like, what it's worth, or how many prospective students out there are looking for a school that offers initiatives like esports at Point Park?
When you look at some of the programs, universities that have already been doing this for a long time, like University of Cal Irvine, they're probably, I would say, 10, 15 years ahead of us. If you just look at them, or if you just look at the University of Harrisburg, for example, I think it shows that, there's a lot of students that are going to be interested in this, and it's only going to grow. Just delving into it just in the last 6 to 8 months that we've been trying to build our program. The league, I think it's the League of Legends, their Overwatch competition, they said was the most watched athletic event last year. I mean, even more than the Super Bowl. So, I mean, when you think about that right there, you're like really just trying to wrap your head around, like, wait, the Super Bowl is huge, but you're talking about like a video game event was the most watched. So that shows you there's a channel for that. There's student athletes. There's a lot of people that are going to get after it. And like I said, just in the short months since we put out our press release, we had parents calling, just students calling. I think there's definitely a future in that. And I think it's only gonna grow. They said it's $1 billion industry, so I think it's only gonna grow. And we're gonna unfortunately we're gonna be in the front lines of it. And before you know it, you'll see the major schools like the Pitts and the Ohio States and all those other schools. I think before you know it, they're gonna be building. As you know, they have a huge revenue. They're going to be building huge esports arena before you know it. I can promise that.
Sure, and as far as the broadcast is concerned, there's probably going to be broadcast rights that are associated with this that they're going to be able to get checks from. How far away, by the way, we're talking to John Ashaolu, the athletic director at Point Park University. Just over a month ago, they announced that they are officially making esports a true varsity sport at Point Park. How far away do you think that this is from reaching the Power 5 level?
I think they're still sorting out. I mean, as you know, right now they're going through the name, image, and likeness situation with the NCAA. Right. I think that once they get past that, I think soon after that it's going to happen. I think that's one of the biggest bridges that they have to cross in regards to that, because just like you alluded to, there's so many things you can monetize from the esports. I mean, there's literally video gamers that are playing, and they have a YouTube channel or Twitch channel where people are paying to watch them play video games. So there's so many, like you said, the broadcasting rights. There's the uniform. Some of the uniforms that we've seen, just some research. There's different businesses, different corporations that would just put a patch on a esports team uniform, and that person is going to be the video gamer is going to be getting monetized. It's going to get advertising endorsement. So there's so many monetization that you can do from esports. So I think that when you're talking about the Power 5, first they got to get past the NIL, the name, image, and likeness situation. I think once they get past that, I think slowly you're going to see these Power 5 schools doing that, because I think it's right down the alley for what they're doing with all the other sports that we're talking about right now, like football, basketball, things of that nature. So once they get past that name, image, and likeness situation, once they get past that, I think you'll see that the Power 5s will slowly start dipping into the esports and making it a varsity sports and sure, just throwing dollars behind it.
Absolutely. John Ashaolu, Director of Athletics at Point Park University. They launched an esports varsity program last March. We're going to chat with Chris Gall coming up next, the head coach of this esports team, and he's 2 years out of college, but that's fascinating in itself. I'm going to talk to Chris about that. But let me ask you this, John, do you think that an initiative like this for the Power Fives or other schools will be put in the HOV lane? I know that anytime there's something new, they want other people to, be the to be, I guess, the lab rat, if you will, and to try this thing out before they go in with 2 feet. But as we see athletic departments and just absolutely starving for a cash flow amid the coronavirus pandemic, I would like to think that having esports in your portfolio, especially if there's as much money in it as we think there is, would that be wise to add in the event that we have some other pandemic like we have where everything else just stops? At least you could kind of keep some form or fashion of revenue in a quarantine setting. This is why like I said, Verizon has seen a 75% jump in video game usage during peak hours since Americans started quarantining themselves. This might be the prudent business move here in the event something like this happens again, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast this past week just in regards to what you're talking about, how, a lot of Power 5 ADs were talking about, just the repercussions from the COVID-19 and how, a lot of these Power 5 schools, they're going to have to think of, they're going to have to be creative in different ways. And one of the points that they alluded to, that the name, image, and likeness will definitely get fast-tracked. And like I said, once that happens, everything's going to, come to fact with, bringing esports into it. So I definitely do think that, esports could be, could eventually be your football team, because obviously the football team in college sports, that's the cash cow. That brings you a lot of the revenue. So I think that, there is going to be sometime soon where esports is going to definitely be that cash cow where you can rely on it. You're going to, if you're talking to these Power 5 athletic directors about finding different ways and trying to be creative and thinking outside the box, esports is definitely it, because again, like I said earlier, there's just so many ways you can monetize it, and especially with what we're going through right now. A lot of these universities, it's not going to take a year, it's not going to take 2 years, it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 years for them to recruit from what's going to happen, especially if we start moving closer to fall and college football starts getting threatened, the season, having the college football season starts getting threatened. A lot of these universities, it's going to take a long time to recruit from that, and that's where esports enters.
It certainly does. John, fascinating stuff. Wish we had more time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on with your head coach, Chris Gall, coming up next, and we'll dive into how you assemble a team, and I'll try to learn from him as well. Appreciate the time. Right. Thanks so much.
No, thanks a lot. You guys have a great day.
You too. That's John Ashaolu, Director of Athletics at Point Park University. Man, that's a heck of a take, but I think he's right. He's certainly not crazy to say that esports could eventually not take the place of, but be very much a football-esque cash generator. Chris Gall, the head coach of the Point Park Pioneers esports team. What do they call? I don't even know how to properly introduce. I do know that he's from Slippery Rock. He just graduated himself 2 years ago, and now he's a head varsity coach of an esports team here in Pittsburgh. Dan Zangrilli, stay with us. We now head to our fan hotline, brought to you by the workers' compensation law firm of Hall and Capitas. I'm Dan Zangrilli, and happy to be joined by the new head coach of the Point Park Pioneers esports program, Chris Gall. Chris, am I introducing you properly? I don't know how to introduce you. I don't know how to call your team. I do know that you're the head ball coach, if you will, of an esports program that is taking the nation by storm in Point Park. I guess they're, no pun intended here, pioneering an effort in collegiate athletics. How are you, man?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I think that head coach, director, all of those sort of get lumped into one. I mean, it's like you said, it's very still new, and everyone's sort of figuring out what they want to do, and some colleges do it one way and some colleges do it other ways, and there's no sort of standard of what everyone should be doing, so everyone's sort of doing it different.
How are you doing it?
So we are sort of following a model that I've developed for myself and what I put in at my other university that I worked at, where we're bringing in a full varsity program. We're focusing on varsity sports. It's very much replicant of traditional sports. I sort of take a lot of inspiration from them, looking at what they're doing with their athletes, how they're treating their athletes. I plan on bringing my students onto campus early to get together in the dorms to practice, to start sort of their workouts, if you will, similar to what the other sports are doing. I plan on having them on, a different practice schedule than everyone else and sort of working them. I've toyed with the idea of putting time in at the gym, just with light workouts for everything from team bonding to sort of keeping up with some physical activity, because that can really help the player's gameplay.
Wait a second, Chris. I got to stop you right there.
Yeah.
At the gym, I mean, this is esports, so there's you have a workout program for esports athletes?
Some universities do. At my last one, I did not, because I wasn't lucky enough to have access to a facility. This university I am. So I'm toying with the idea. A lot of professional teams do. Some universities do. Nothing. Obviously, you're not playing football. You're not playing baseball. You're not powerlifting. You're not trying to get stronger. But just some light stuff to really get the players moving a little bit, get their blood pumping a little bit. It really helps with focus. It helps with sort of keeping them a little bit more healthy. It helps with their sort of cognitive ability to really have all those things working together.
Yep, I mean, makes complete sense. Now that you explained it that way, Chris Gall is the head coach of an esports program that was just launched at Point Park University. We had the athletic director, John Ashaolu, on last segment. And this is, Chris, a major industry, is flush with cash. I'm curious, what type of overhead is there? Because as I was talking to John last segment, and, here we are, quarantine, all of college sports, really sport for that matter, has shut down. Esports could survive, and as a matter of fact, according to the Sports Business Journal, it is thriving amid this pandemic because of clearly how it can be accomplished virtually and with technology. What's it worth?
So right now, at the collegiate level, for us, esports has pretty much sort of stopped, similar to a lot of traditional sports, just because of different sort of access that different students have. Not every student might have access to the type of equipment at home or the internet access that they need. So to sort of keep that in mind and to sort of really be fair to those students, a lot of collegiate esports have shut down, but professional esports at this time is thriving and is sort of moving forward from remote locations where they usually would play in a more in-person location. They've all sort of moved remote, but they do have access to the internet that you need and the equipment that you need. So it might not be the ideal and perfect environment, but it is an environment they can make work in a reasonably fair manner and sort of give their fans and all the new fans that are looking to really scratch that competitive entertainment itch. Those new guys looking for something to have, they're sort of still providing that and really sort of growing off of this.
Chris Gall is the head coach of the Point Park Pioneers esports team. They're going to begin competition, right, in 2020, 2021. Chris, you were
Correct.
Just in college 2 years ago. You're an Allegheny College grad, a native of Slippery Rock. What's it going to be like as, I guess, a head coach of players that, you conceivably could have been in school with a short time ago?
Honestly, it's not a huge thing to me because I think that, I was, like I said, I was at a former college. I was a coach there. A lot of those people I even coached people that were older than me, but I sort of kept my age pretty under wrap, and they all had guesses of what they thought I was and how old they thought I was, and I'm sure I'll do something very similar at Point Park just because I don't think that matters really how old I am because I have a lot of experience in esports and I do know what I'm talking about and I can help them to grow as players and as a team. So as long as they look at me as a coach and as long as they look at me as a figure to be respected, I don't really think it matters all that much how old I am. You know what I mean? I think
it's awesome.
I think it really easily, if you carry yourself in a proper way, I think it really easily can be overcome to be a sort of a younger guy.
100%, man. 100%. Chatting with Chris Gall, head coach of the Point Park Pioneers esports program that was just launched last month. So how do you make players better in esports? Clearly, when I think of it, Chris, you play a game more, the better at it that you get. You can do a little research, you can read up, and you improve your game. How can a coach help an esports athlete?
That's something a lot of people wonder. A lot of people wonder, how do you really get better other than just playing and playing and playing? And that obviously is the best way to get better. It's just to play a lot, right? But there's different ways that you can make what you're doing more efficient, and that's sort of where a coach steps in, where they can, sometimes it can really help to have a third set of eyes looking at your gameplay or a second set of eyes looking at your gameplay to see and to watch someone that might know more than you about certain aspects of the game to really help you understand different positions that aren't your own, similar to how it might be really beneficial to an infielder to understand how an outfield works or a linebacker to understand how the defensive line works. So a coach can really help with that. Another big thing a coach helps with is sort of the communication and what's called the synergy of a team. The coach really helps to get those personalities moving in the right direction and sort of take all the different energies from all the players and sort of align them to a common goal and really get the players moving in the proper direction and really using all their time and energy efficiently to really come to something really beautiful at the end.
Chris,
and
where
something
are
successful.
Yeah, no doubt. And just like, well, you guessed it, any other team. That's I mean, it's fascinating to watch this all unfold. You know, I'll be the first to admit I don't know much, if anything, about this. I just know that it's a big deal and it's coming. And my question to you is, where is it going to be in 5 years? Where is it going to be in 10 years? And where do you think esports eventually sits at the table in collegiate athletics and in our mainstream sporting world?
That's a really interesting question. I get asked that a lot. It's very hard to answer right now, because right now, right at Point Park, I just got brought in. We are offering scholarship opportunities at the varsity level. We're recruiting for League of Legends and Rocket League for the fall of 2020. We're building a brand new space. We're going to treat our athletes the exact same way as everyone else. Like I said, with scholarships, jerseys, gear, practice times, the whole gambit like that. And then you think about 5 years from now, you think about where we were 5 years ago, even to now is incredibly different. 5 years ago, I was looking at playing professionally. I was considering whether I wanted to, drop out of college, stop what I was doing to sort of try and go play. And it wasn't a feasible career for me at the time. You know what I mean? But now it is. It's a feasible career for hundreds and hundreds of people who do it daily. And I think that in 5 years, it's pretty much going to be a main staple, I would guess, in a lot of colleges and universities. What the leagues are going to look like, what the games are going to look like, that is completely up in the air. Who knows? You know what I mean? A new game could come out as the next hotness, and it could get picked up by everyone, and it could take off the best esport that's ever been, or, something like League of Legends, who's been in the scene for 10-plus years and has been dominating and still is, might stick around and keep growing. And then 10 years from now, 10 years from now, honestly, I do think that esports will become a mainstay in a lot of countries as a very large professional sport. I think I can equate it to something to sort of like soccer or football that isn't maybe the biggest in the United States because we have American football, or maybe isn't the biggest in one individual country, but as an international sport and as an international competition, it really comes together to be one of the largest, and in soccer's case, the largest. You know what I mean? So yes. I think that because it's similar to soccer, because it's so accessible, and because it can be offered to so many students, especially now that we're sort of with the whole COVID thing happening, now that we're sort of moving into a place where internet access is becoming more of a commonplace thing than sort of a luxury. I think that you're really going to see esports become this sort of international phenomenon, sport powerhouse.
Yeah, internet is essentially a utility at this point, and probably before too long will be classified as such. In 30 seconds or less, we're chatting with Chris Gall, a head esports coach at Point Park. They just launched a program in the last month. How do you recruit an athlete? What are you looking for, aside from game results? I mean, when you recruit a football player, can they throw? Can they run? How do they move? How hard do they hit? All of those, what are the measurables that makes a good esport athlete?
Yeah, so you can look at someone's stats, and you can look at the way that they pilot their character, the way they play their position, how much they understand about the game on a more conceptual level to see, how are they thinking, sort of like a chess match. How are they seeing the future? How are they going to be sort of acting proactively instead of reactively, right? You can look at all that stuff, but other big things that people don't think about are sort of how they mesh with your current team, how they communicate their ideas and sort of what they're doing. If someone's a genius in the game and has what they're doing, but they can't communicate it to their team, that's a pretty big detriment, and that person might not be as good as someone who is, maybe not as talented, but can communicate much more effectively. Because it is so, a lot of games, the games that people really love to watch, not any one person can have perfect information at any given time. So all the players have to sort of share their information that they have to sort of try and build as a team an idea of the perfect information of everything happening around the game. So sort of outside measures factor in as well, such as communication, such as synergy, their energy that meshes with the team or not. what their specific skill set is, and then obviously how they pilot their champion, how well they can press their buttons, per se. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Chris Gall, the head coach at Point Park. They are open for business, if you will. Interested recruits, you can go ahead and contact Chris at cgaul, Gaul, at pointpark.edu. Again, athletic scholarships are available for recruits just as with any other varsity sports within the Point Park Athletic Department. Chris, hey, thank you so much. Illuminating, enlightening. Really enjoyed it. I wish we had more time, and I might have you on again before it's all too long to take even a deeper dive into the initiative that you have going on with everybody else at Point Park.
Absolutely. I would love to do it. I'd love to be back on at any time, and thank you for having me.
All right, that's Chris Gall, Allegheny College grad, Slippery Rock native, and now the first head coach of the Point Park Pioneers, their varsity sports program, Esports. Going to talk a little bit more about this when we return. I'll give you my